I'm going to presume that we can get started. I want to tell you about a movie that I watched yesterday morning. And I'm going to say basically it's about compassion, and it's also about, you could say, peer influence. Because so many things influence you, and sometimes you have no clue that they're going to influence you. We could probably roll into a song and say, yeah, you don't have a clue. Things will influence you. How? Who can tell me what the Holocaust is?
I don't know.
Anybody, tell me what the Holocaust is.
It was the Nazis going around and killing a whole bunch of people based on their race and religion.
Okay. Primarily Jews. The numbers they give was 6 million people perished, primarily in things like gas chambers. Okay, they would herd them in and exterminate them, basically, because they said that they weren't human beings. So my question is, okay, now who can tell me who Hitler was?
I thought who it was.
Anybody? Who was Hitler? Have you ever heard of him? Yeah.
I heard.
What do you know? Was he a good guy?
No.
No? Why wasn't he a good guy?
He killed people, I don't know.
Killed people? Blonde hair, blue eyes, that's what he's looking for? Okay. All right, that's a good statement. He thought that there was a superior race of people that had blonde hair and blue eyes. All right? I don't know, is there any blonde hair and blue-eyed people in here? I don't see anybody, so I guess there's no superior races in here. So, and there isn't, because we're all equal. All right? You're pointing? I don't see any blonde hair. So, anyway, so we've established that the Holocaust, okay, minimally in Germany, 6 million people were exterminated, and that Hitler was a bad guy. Did he go kill all those 6 million people?
Yeah.
He did? No, he didn't. So he had to have people do it. Okay? So he had to influence people to go kill other people. Because somebody thought they were a superior race? I don't know. Let me ask you a question. If somebody were to hold a gun to your head, and you're driving a bulldozer, and the guy holding a gun to your head says, if you don't drive that bulldozer and push dirt over these people in the ditch and bury them, I will kill you. Now the people in the ditch, here's how they got to be there. They rounded them up. This is a true story. They rounded them up and they shot as many as they could. They shot them all, but see, they all didn't die. Because sometimes when you get shot, right, you don't die right away. So some of the people in the pit were still alive. So the soldier holds a gun to your head and says, if you don't push the dirt over these people so they'll die and they'll suffocate, would you push the dirt?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands, but it sounds like, from what I just heard, the majority of you in here would say no. I would put my own life in danger.
I wouldn't. To do what?
Well, what the guy is saying, he's holding a gun to your head. Okay? You're going to die unless you drive the bulldozer and push the dirt over these people, and they'll die. So it's either you or them.
I would save my life. I would do
Okay? Well, I suppose it relates back to, how do you get people to kill 6 million people? Is that right?
No.
Does one person make a difference? What if one person would have said, I'm not driving the bulldozer? Maybe that would have been contagious, because how do atrocities in the world happen? We hear about people all the time. It's mostly, we think it's all in all the other countries. It was in Nazi Germany. It was somewhere else. Think of all the people in the world that bad things have happened. Lately on the internet, there was a guy, I think his name was Joseph Kony, over in Africa. Okay, child slavery and trafficking. They make children go shoot people. I listened to a guy at the University of Buffalo. His name was Craig Mortensen. He helped to found over 150 schools, primarily for children in Afghanistan and Pakistan. And one day, as he's putting these schools up, he always puts a playground there. These guys that look like, kind of like Taliban guys, okay, they come with their turbans on, they got AK-47s. They come up, and Craig has had his life threatened. He's been kidnapped. They want him to stop doing what he's doing. But you see these guys come up, and he's thinking maybe his life's in danger. Maybe these bad guys are going to shoot him. They put their machine guns down, and then they go play on the playground. These terrorist guys put the AKs down and go jump on the monkey bars. And Craig's looking at this like, what's up with this? And all of a sudden the one guy comes over and he says, Mr. Craig, you don't understand. From the time I was 2 years old, I was taught to pick up a gun and kill people. That's all he's ever known. He's never had a childhood. He's never been taught compassion. If you take the word compassion, the first letters of it form the word compass. What does a compass do? Compass points you in the right direction. If I'm climbing a mountain and I don't know my way and I don't have a trail, I need to have a compass that points the direction. So compassion should be a compass within your moral character that points you in the direction of how you'll treat other people. The word compassion, by definition, says that compassion is you feel for somebody so deeply, which is empathy. You feel empathy to such a degree that you're compelled to do something to alleviate their suffering. So in other words, if somebody's feeling bad going through a hard time, you want to go help them. Somebody's homeless, you feel bad, you want to go get them a home. Right? Somebody's getting beat up, you want to go, you want to help them stop. That's compassion. So somewhere along the line in Germany, there wasn't enough compassion. You can study the trail of Hitler. One of the things that he did, how did he get to have so much power? He had a plan. The guy was good. He was a good speaker. He was a good organizer. He persuaded people. The guy had a lot of good quality character traits. Somewhere along the line, nobody taught him compassion. He had them form a law that what they would do is they would go and they made all of the Jewish people sign a statement of what they owned, all of their wealth. So then when the soldiers went to your house, they knew what you owned. They knew how much money you had, how much property you had, what your business was worth, all your jewelry. They knew if you had a gold tooth, because by law you had to list it all down. So when the soldiers went, and then they took the families away, then they would split up families, because to break you down, they do everything they can to separate you, to make you feel small, to belittle you, take your self-esteem away, your self-respect away. But they had to have people willing to do that. They had to have soldiers, other people. Where did the pastors of the churches go? Some were removed, a cross was taken out, and a swastika was put up. Anybody that talked against him, he would annihilate, he would kill. So let's say that I like purple people. That's all I like. I think the whole world should be purple people. So I'm going to get rid of anybody who's not purple. Is that a good thing?
No.
In this country, who can tell me what slavery was, is? What was slavery? So white people made black people do things. They what?
Like we had to obey y'all like y'all was masters.
Okay. All right, y'all hear that? What she said was, white people made black people obey them like we were the masters. Is that a true statement?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Okay? You should never, ever forget it. You need to refresh your memory with that. Anybody tell me why?
Because it's history.
It's history. And does history repeat itself?
No.
Not all the time. What would stop it? Would compassion stop it? If we had compassion, would it stop it? Okay? It really wasn't all that many years ago that black people couldn't drink from the same water fountain as white people. It wasn't that many years ago. Martin Luther King talked about the rights of all people, of all children, the dream that he had. We're talking 1963. It's 49 years ago. Let me ask you a question. When you were in kindergarten, do you remember what you brought your lunch to school in? Did you have a lunchbox, paper bag? In kindergarten, what did you bring your lunch to school in? What was your lunchbox? Paper bag. What'd you have? Cinderella. Anybody else? What'd you have? Spider-Man? Blue lunchbox? Okay. How long did it take you to think up that memory? Seconds? Split seconds? And that memory was probably at least 7 years ago, we'll say, to kindergarten. So in a second, it took you 1 second to think of a memory 7 years ago. We're talking 49 years. Martin Luther King talked about I have a dream, and there was still bad things in this country going on racially. That's 7 seconds of split-second memory time. Is that a long time? Time passes so quickly. And one of the things that Martin Luther King talked about, and this is a paraphrase of his I Have a Dream speech, he talks about beware of the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. And what that means is sometimes we make good things happen and we accomplish something. We get a goal, and then all of a sudden we become complacent and we rest in our laurels and we don't keep going forward. A pond without movement becomes stagnant, and you get mosquitoes in a pond. Does anybody like mosquitoes? They bite. If you are not constantly moving forward and you're resting on your laurels because we made something good happen, and you're not making more good things happen, you're going to become stagnant. And then all of a sudden, this tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Is there any racism in Buffalo today?
Yes.
Yes? Can anybody give me an example? Yes.
I went to the doctor, and my sister and my cousin was fighting, and it was a Caucasian lady. She was to me on Facebook. When they got done fighting, she tagged the nerve to say typical black people.
Okay. Did that hurt?
Yeah, because I wanted to smack her. Never mind.
I don't blame you. If somebody said that, that's how I would feel. Sometimes we do want to smack people. It's not right to smack them, but it is the anger that we feel. Right? What you do with the anger can help things. Yes? All right, let's respect all people.
Oh, say it. I want to know.
Chill.
Say it.
Chill.
Well, then be respectful when she's trying to talk.
Well, me and my mom and my brother, we was sitting, we was in a car waiting for my grandma to get back, and these people, these white people was sitting next to us, and like in the car, and then it was like, you know, they sitting right next to us, and they had their window cracked, and the lady walked back. I thought she walked back. It was like just let me make sure my windows down when they were being.
When I used to live out in the town of Lakeview, and most of the people, we used to have to go to professional football games that we used to call the old rock pile, War Memorial Stadium. When we would drive into the city, we were always told to keep our windows up because it was a sign of danger. Okay? And actually sometimes when we did drive into the city, there were some parts of the city people would throw rocks and bottles and cans. Well, where does racism come from?
People think you'll be like, a lot of racism comes from Caucasians because, no offense, because it's like, sometimes y'all be thinking like we so horrible, like we always trying to stuff something. Half the time we don't be wanting nothing y'all got. We got money, we go get
All right, so you use the word afraid. What's another word you could use for afraid? Fear? Okay. So fear, I'm going to say right now, fear is the root of anything that destroys compassion. If I have compassion, that's going to overrule any fear. I'm not going to look at how somebody looks, their religion, their race, their creed, their color, any of that stuff. I'm going to look at the human being. I'm going to look for the best in everybody that I meet. Would that be a good thing? What if you went around your school looking for the best in everybody that you would meet? Is that a good thing? Okay. Now, let's say everything that you do. Now, there's a lie that people tell you that I say is a lie. This lie is this. Failure is not an option. You ever heard that before? Okay, failure is not an option. I'm going to tell you that's a lie. Everything in life is a series of failures, right? So you're going to fail forward. When you look at the trees out there, they lose their leaves. The tree doesn't have any leaves. Does the tree look like a failure? Yeah. Is the tree coming back? Yeah, springtime, baby. That tree's coming back, okay? So you will fail. When you play a video game for the very first time, is it easy? No. But do you quit? No. So should your grades be any different than the video game? So your brain is a muscle, okay? You can exercise the muscle and become more intelligent. What if I get up on this table? See this table?
Yeah.
All right. The table's hard, right? Okay. Is this table resistance? Can I push my way through this table? No. Years ago, there was a blacksmith Okay, they used to heat up metal. The guy would take like a horseshoe. So picture a guy making a horseshoe. He's got this thing called an anvil. Big piece of metal, hard steel, right? An anvil. The blacksmith would take a hammer. He'd take the horseshoe, heat it up till it was red hot, take the red hot horseshoe, put it on the anvil, and then pound it. He would pound it to shape it. What was happening was a transference of energy from the hammer to the horseshoe, meeting resistance with the anvil. The resistance, is that a good thing? Resistance met the horseshoe, so it became a good thing. Was able to shape it. Okay? So, resistance for you, if you have a class that you're studying that you're just not getting it. For me, it was like math. I'm going to tell you, I think math sucks. I really do. I just don't get it. Algebra, I'm thinking you're smoking something. I just don't get it. Okay? Math for me is hard. Does that mean I should quit?
No.
Does that mean I should say, well, you know what, I'm just not good at math and that's just the way things are?
Yeah.
You think I should say that? Well, what if you said the same thing in a video game? Well, I'm just going to suck at this video game, so I shouldn't even bother trying to get good.
Because if I keep playing, I'll get frustrated now. I wouldn't want to play it.
Well, yeah, but don't you keep, when you keep on playing it, don't you get better at it? Okay. So what's going to happen to this table? Okay? This table is resistance, and I can't get through it. All right? What happens if I get up on a table, all right, and I start doing this? What's going to happen now?
Nothing. No.
What happens now? What happens now?
Get stronger.
I get stronger. I met the resistance, and I used the resistance, and I got stronger. Your grades are no different. Meet the resistance of anything in life, whether it's a friend that you're having a hard time with. Do you understand all your friends? No. Sometimes you're going to have conflict. Is conflict a good thing?
No.
Yes, it is.
Oh.
Conflict, resistance. I'm going to grow through that. So we have conflict. It's a good thing. You work through the resistance. Now, you're going to have people in your life, your peers in your life. You guys talked about peer pressure, right? All the people around you. So if you surround yourself with people like what Hitler had in Nazi Germany, what's going to happen? Last week was a pretty tough week for us. Let me tell you why. I've told you about some of the murders that have been committed around our organization. I told you that within our kitchen at Holy Cross, 3 people out of our kitchen of 8 people that have ever worked there have had family members take a bullet to the head and were murdered. How many of you guys know somebody, friend or relative, that's been a victim of any kind of violence? Okay? All right, quite a few. So for us, last week, they arrested somebody in connection with one of the murders that happened last year. Now, when somebody dies, you grieve. You feel bad. You go through the grieving process. And then what happened with us, somebody died, and then the girl that worked in our kitchen had to leave. We grieve again. All of a sudden, they arrest the guy. We're grieving again because now all of a sudden the wound is fresh. It's almost like you take the wound and you pour salt on it, and it becomes fresh once again. You thought it was over. Man, I'm going to put this behind me. I'm going to move on. And then all of a sudden, salt on the wound. So here we are salted again. But to make matters worse, we find out that some of the people that we knew were involved in some way in the murder. They're still looking for other people. They were accessories. They were accomplices. Maybe somebody carried the gun to the scene. Maybe somebody carried it away. Maybe somebody hid the gun. Maybe somebody else tried to tell us to go in the wrong direction. There's all kinds of things that are going on. We feel abandoned. We feel used by people that we trusted. Can you trust people on drugs? No. When you're hanging out with people and you're looking at the peers that you have, the people that are hanging around with you, do you hang around with people that are on drugs? If somebody gets on drugs, that all of a sudden your friend starts using and says, hey, you know what? Let's go to a party. You know what? Let's just try this just once. Okay, just try it once. Listen, you get a high. It'll be cool. Is that a good thing?
No. Peer pressure.
You have to, it's peer pressure. How do you stop the peer pressure? The word is boundaries. You have to set boundaries. In your head, you have to say to yourself, you know what? If I go to a party and they got something bad going on, I'm out the door. I'm going to bounce. I'm going to chill in a place like that. I'm out of here. You got to make a decision ahead of time. You will leave if there's trouble. Because if you don't, you're going to end up in trouble yourself.
Or you could die.
Or you could die, yeah. There was a guy, the people on drugs really don't know what they're doing. They don't have any control. They're going to hurt you, and you're going to sit and say, oh, woe is me, my friends, they stabbed me in the back, they're so bad. How could they do this to me? I've been such a good friend, and now they did. I feel used. It's not you. It's them who are on drugs or anything else that causes them to do things they don't know what they're doing. There was a guy by Lenova Pizza. He stabbed his girlfriend like 60 or 50, 60 times. The next day when they arrested him, he didn't remember it. Didn't know what. So picture yourself. What if you make the mistake, you use some drugs just for once because I want to try it just once. Because I should be able to try everything at least just once. Because I'm a risker. I'm an adventure taker. Just once won't hurt me. So you do it just once, you get all whacked out, and all of a sudden you do something to kill somebody. Last week, I think we talked about a girl that was punched in the head that was died. She was just short of her 12-year-old birthday. Right? Walking in between schools, she got into a fight, and all of a sudden somebody hit her in the head. She goes into the school. She had a little bit of a nosebleed. She goes into the school, and all of a sudden I don't really feel very well. Well, most of us, maybe we get in fights. Maybe we hit somebody. We don't think that it's a bad thing. But all of a sudden, this girl goes in, starts to feel a headache, starts to feel dizzy. She passes out. By the time she gets to the hospital, she died. Because one punch to the head in the right place can hit an artery. She hemorrhaged to death. There was a guy that got into a fight, and other guys were beating up on him, and somebody kicked him in the face. The guy drowned on his own blood. These are weird circumstances, but they happen. So flip the shoes here. Put yourself in those shoes. You're out of control because maybe you're doing drugs, or maybe you just can't control your anger. Or maybe you don't have compassion for people, and you think that you deserve everything because I am the purple people. Because you see, I'm Bob. And I'm just better than you, so I deserve everything. Nobody should treat me bad. Nobody should get in my way because I'm Bob. Okay? But you see, that attitude, that self, that lacking of compassion is going to cause me to do bad things. And especially when you throw like drugs or alcohol into the mix, people don't know what they're doing. So when hurting people, what do hurting people do? They hurt other people. It's infectious. Okay? Somebody walked into my youth center. He was mad because somebody stole his hat. He says, I'm going to the center next door. I'm going to steal somebody else's hat. He said, dude, what good is that going to do? Well, they're just going to feel the pain that I feel. That's only right. Is that right? No. Because you feel pain to go inflict pain on somebody else? No. What if instead of inflicting the pain on somebody else, you decided you're going to be like a little bit of a sponge, absorb some of the pain? Could you possibly change somebody's life? Okay, let's go back to lifting weights or push-ups here again. If I'm lifting weights, what's happening to my muscle?
You're getting stronger.
But how? What's the physiological process? I'm breaking it down. Tearing. Yes. Does your heart ever tear when a friend stabs you in the back and lies about you?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, now you can react and take the tear and say, you know what? I'm going to tear this heart. I'm going to tear your heart. And before you know it, somebody else is tearing another heart, tearing another heart, tearing another heart, and 6 million people die. That's where it starts. Somebody got torn, never got healed, and they decided to tear as many people as they could. That's how 6 million people die. And you might say, what's that got to do with me? I'm just a 7th grader in this place called Buffalo. Is Buffalo any different than Nazi Germany?
Yeah.
When I was in Selma, Alabama a couple of years ago, I listened to a lady speak. Her name was Mrs. Cooper. And a really wild part about this story, my daughter was in Florida at the time, not knowing that I was in Selma, Alabama. And I called her up on the phone. It was the day before Father's Day. And I said, Darren, what are you doing this week? And she's, oh, this, that, and the other thing. I watched a movie. I said, what was the movie about? She was called Selma, Selma. I said, really? That's where I'm at. I said, what was it about? She was about this lady, Mrs. Cooper. I said, Mrs. Cooper? I was with Mrs. Cooper on Thursday night. I'm talking to her on Saturday night. On Thursday night, I was with the real Mrs. Cooper. Mrs. Cooper is a 93-year-old black lady. Mrs. Cooper told her story. And I remember holding the microphone for her in front of a crowd in front of Selma High School. And she came up and sat down on a chair. She was hobbled over, and she came up slowly. She sat down, and I held the microphone. I got down on one knee and held the microphone. And she told her story. She still remembers when she was 13 years old, and white men on horses were chasing her and her friend. And they trampled her friend. She remembers the screams as her friend died underneath the hooves of the horses. She remembers when she was 18 years old, and she marched up the courthouse steps because she was going to vote. Because you see, the United States government says black people could vote. Alabama says, not in my backyard, you're not. So when she marched up the courthouse steps, a cop came down, tried to stop her. She takes the cop and just flings him out of the way. And at that point, the audience is like, yay, Mrs. Cooper. But I'm telling you, her facial expression was so stoic and like concrete. Her faces, yeah. What do you hear? What happens next? Because you see what happens next. Some other cops came down and beat her mercilessly. Now, let me tell you, to be a cop in Selma, Alabama at that time, all you had to do was be a white guy. You had to just be a white guy, be willing to take something up and beat a black person. That's the only criteria for being a cop. There was no civil service test. They didn't sit you down and say, take an exam, and we're going to give you an exam and you can become a cop. Oh, no. Just be willing to pick up a club and beat some black people. That was it. They came down and beat her mercilessly, fractured her skull, broken ribs, part of her tongue was missing, broken teeth. And in that condition, they threw her in a jail cell on a concrete floor without medical attention. That's Mrs. Cooper's story. But Mrs. Cooper was filled with compassion because the whole week we were down in Selma, Alabama, she opened up her house to everybody. They had a street named after her. Her whole life has been a testimony of a healed heart. She didn't get ripped. And out of a story like that, it's possible to be ripped, right? That's bad stuff. She could be bitter. She could be mad and angry. And I'm sure she was. Anger is a good thing, depending on what you do with it. She turned her anger into the opportunity to heal other people. She lifted the weights of her heart, allowed it to heal. The heart became bigger, enabling her to love more people because her heart was a muscle. Your brains are the same way.
What happened? Why do people on the horses chase them?
Just chasing black people.
That was,
there are stories twice. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The people were chasing her probably because they were part of the Ku Klux Klan, because that's what they did.
Okay.
They had horses and they would chase after them.
Okay. That's a great story. I don't know how much time we got.
I thought they wanted them to take them.
I'm looking at that. It's confusing me.
Why are you recording it?
So that's a good question. How much time we have left?
We're about 9 minutes.
9 minutes. Okay. Why am I recording this? Because I believe that we are supposed to reach millions of people. You heard a story today about 6 million people dying. All right. So what happens when we go into the schools through the questions and the interchange that we have with you guys? It gives us more ideas. You get more, we all grow. So it's like, how do we expand this? So how do we put this on places, maybe a YouTube channel called YWAP Radio Live, so that other people can see, hear, and learn, and hopefully other people will be allowed to heal through the message that we're talking about now. Do you think that based on what we have said today, that you might feel a little bit more compassionate?
A little.
A little? Okay. If somebody hurts you, is it possible that you could become stronger through the pain?
No.
Yes.
Okay. Some yes, some no. All right. Those are both good answers. It's a struggle. Unless you struggle forward. And that's the whole thing with failure is not an option. I'm not telling you that any failure of a grade should be an option. But what I'm saying is, the more you try, the more you exercise your brain, the more intelligent you will become. So when something is hard, like math, which it was for me, still is, there's things in my life I have to struggle through. And the more I struggle, the stronger I get at them. So when you have a class that you're having a hard time in, struggle through it, you will get better grades. You will end up passing. So I'm not telling you that failure is an option to be acceptable. I'm saying accept it as a stepping stone to make you stronger. Because you're going to fail sometimes. You will. You're going to say dumb things. Has anybody in here ever lied?
Yep.
Okay, pretty much all of us. What's that make us?
Liars.
Liars, okay? Has anybody in here ever stolen anything in your life?
Yes.
Okay? What's that make us if we steal? We're thieves, right? I'm a liar. I'm a thief. I admit it. I have been a liar. I have been a thief. But the thing is, that's over because I have learned from it. Right now, I'm developing a personal creed. A personal creed is a statement of how you want to live your life. So what I would invite you to do, how do you want to live your life? What I put down on mine, I believe in myself. I believe in my friends. I believe in the people around me. I believe in the best for them. I am committed to looking for the best in everybody that I meet. I'm committed to doing business in a trustworthy way. I believe that other people will do business with me in a trustworthy way. That's part of the creed that I'm going to recite in the morning and before I even go to bed at night, because I'm going to imprint it on my heart. I want things to change for other people. That's the only reason we do what we do. So getting back to compassion, getting back to peer influence, how does a school spread compassion? We only got a couple of minutes left. So how could you possibly today, when you leave this room, what would be one thing that you could do to spread compassion? Hug a friend? Okay. Give support to a friend. All right, what else? One thing you could do to spread compassion. All right, what about you guys over here? One thing you can do. Show compassion. Compassion, again, all right, stick with me because we're almost done. Stick with me. Compassion, by definition, is feeling somebody else's pain to such a degree you want to help them get rid of that pain. So if you're walking around the school and sometimes you can see people that are just looking like they're down. Maybe it's physical, they don't feel very good. Maybe it's mental, emotional. Maybe you know something about their life that they're going through a hard time. Maybe you know that they really don't have a home to live in right now. Can somebody be homeless and still live in a home? Okay. How can that happen? Huh? Well, if you're still, yes. Not your home? Okay. Maybe the people in your home, do they make you feel like it's your home? Yeah. Do you feel good when you go home and say, oh, I'm home. Oh, mom. Oh, dad. Oh, sister, brother, auntie, uncle, grandma.
I'm doing it to my brother.
Okay. That doesn't happen for everybody. Sometimes in your own home, you can be made to feel like somebody doesn't love you. If there's somebody like that in your life, maybe they need more compassion because nobody ever gave it to them. It's got to start somewhere. Where's it going to start? Can it start with you? Can compassion that stops the next Holocaust start with you? Think about that.
And what was interesting, last time we worked on a letter, writing a letter to someone offering support. So we did like a little creative writing. We had a lot of really good letters in here about what they could do and say and how they could help someone else who was going through a difficult time. These guys did a really nice job with those letters. Some very impressive.
Cool. Maybe we should take those letters and we can read them, get them on the internet, and spread them all over the world.
Aaliyah had a nice one, and Jessica had a nice one. If they want, I still have them all downstairs. If I can share them with I'll get a couple to read them. Some of you wrote anonymously and forgot to put your name on it, so I know who to give credit to, by the way, too. You made up names, you made up who it was from, so I don't know who did it. But yeah, I'll share them with you. There was some nice ones.
Very cool. So you guys, you're ahead of this class already. All right. I remember in the beginning when I asked your permission to be able to treat you like college students, because I believe that you could handle the material that's given to people much older than you because you were that mature. And it sounds like you already did it. So I think we're done. Go do something nice for somebody.
Well, we got about 2 minutes. We have about 3 minutes, so.